So hi, my name is Cujo. So this is a video of me just telling you my top 5 favorite games that I played in 2023. I want to clarify that this is not games that came out in 2023. These are just games that I ended up playing in 2023 that were in my top 5. I am not a person that really plays a bunch of games. Like, I'll play one game front to back and I just stick with that one game until I feel like I'm done with it. So I didn't get around to playing that many games last year because, well, I played just games that are very long in length mostly. But I've made a quick list here to give you my top 5, and then I'm just gonna kind of talk about how I felt about playing them and why I loved them. I think I played like 10 new games that I hadn't played in 2023, so like my span of list is not very vast in like reach of games, but I love these games that I played, so I'm gonna talk about them. So at number 5 is Lethal Company, and that game is freaking fun as hell. I would be surprised if you hear this and you don't know what Lethal Company is, because it was like the social media game for a little bit. But Lethal Company is a game where essentially you go into this abandoned building on a planet and then you try to extract loot with no weaponry to deal with the enemies that are in the establishment. So it's like this small indie horror game that you play with your friends, and you're trying to get gear out to meet like this quota for a corporation that you're, in quotes, enslaved to. That's me saying that. They say they hired you, but you're enslaved to them. I didn't play a whole bunch. I played a few sessions with my friends, but the amount of joy that game bring in those 3 sessions was like worth the money, and I recommend it to anybody if you have friends. If you don't have friends, I'm sorry. I mean, it could be a spooky game by yourself, but it's spooky and funny with your friends. So it's a very rare thing, I think, to see in indie games where they can effectively make a truly authentic and fun experience to play with your friends with proximity chat and stuff like that. I can't even remember the name. I think it was Phasmophobia that I played with my friends, and it had the same proximity chat and setup, but it was just not nearly as fun or enjoyable for me as that game. And I just loved the good amount of clippable moments that it gave, and every time we went in, it felt like each individual looting session was like its own unique storyline. So yeah, Lethal Company at number 5 for me. So at number 4 is Yakuza 3, and that might confuse some people because they're like, why would you play one of the oldest Yakuza games that you're able to access when there's so much better Yakuza games to work through and play? And I'm a bit of a masochist. I'm trying to work from Yakuza 1 all the way up to where we're at today. So I played Yakuza 0, Yakuza Kiwami 1 and 2, and then I played 3 because there's only a remaster and not a remake of 3. And I just love the Yakuza storyline so much personally that I wanted to play through Yakuza 3. And I don't know, every single Yakuza game for me, even if the game isn't really that investing, or Yakuza 3 is aged quite a bit, the storyline and setup of Yakuza I just love so much, and I just loved Yakuza 3 for that warm family feeling that it has compared to 1 and 2. Like, you take care of this orphanage of children in 3, and Kiryu himself has a more established sense of himself than in like the older games of Yakuza. But not only do you get a cool beat 'em up game, I recommend any Yakuza game, just Yakuza 3 is the one that I played this year. You get like a drama alongside like extremely funny as hell side quests. So yeah, Yakuza 3 is at my number 4. Number 3 is Bayonetta 1. To me, there's not many games I think I see that embrace sexuality in like a comedic sense, I guess I would say, other than maybe like anime. But even then, I feel like anime always kind of does it in this weird, childish, innocent type of way, to where Bayonetta is self-aware that she's a sexual being, and it's a part of her fighting style, and it's done so in a comedic way where like it kind of challenges that Western notion in me where like being sexual is like taboo, and I like that. I don't know why, but there was times where I would feel slightly uncomfortable and then laugh at that. But also, it's a really in-depth beat 'em up, and the system with the special moves is actually an extremely good beat 'em up system to give a very basic player control over the game. But if you want to take it to an immense depth and work on getting high scores and stuff, there's an option for that too. Reason I say that is I'm not the best at beat 'em ups, so for basic players myself, it was really fun still, and I had a blast going through that game. I loved it a lot. Bayonetta 1 was at number 3. So number 2 is the Resident Evil 4 remake, and I'm a huge fan of the original Resident Evil 4. It was a game I played when I was a kid, and I think I only got to like the second area realistically, so I didn't get super far in Resident Evil 4 as a kid, but then I played the original Resident Evil 4 as a teenager, I was like, yo, yeah, this is pretty damn sick. I like this game a lot. And so when I played through that, I loved Resident Evil 4. And when I heard about the remake, I was like, okay, yeah, I gotta play that. I loved Resident Evil 4. And being a fan of the original one, I like that Resident Evil 4 remake is able to itch the scratch for everybody. Like, not only is it a very great game in of itself if you didn't play the original Resident Evil 4, but it honors the original almost to a T. You can argue that there's little details in it that they kind of missed, but overall, as like a product and as a game, it was extremely fun. And in terms of like introducing enemies and making combat just feel a lot better, I think that they just aced a remake to where a lot of games can struggle doing that anymore. And in terms of replayability, I feel like Resident Evil 4 is probably one of the more replayable Resident Evils. It's like the perfect blend between survival horror and action, and I wish that there were more Resident Evils like it. It seems like they're moving more in that direction, which makes me excited for Resident Evil as an IP. But yeah, Resident Evil 4 is at number 2. You gotta get some of that Leon in there, dude. Like, it's fire. And Ada DLC came out. Haven't played it yet, but base game, loved it a lot. My number 1 game for 2023 was Who's Lilla. Now, Who's Lilla as a game isn't really like the most playable or replayable, but the ideas behind Who's Lilla, the storytelling of Who's Lilla, I think is my favorite part about it and is what made it my favorite game for 2023. Who's Lilla is a game where you play as a guy named William, and the way that you choose dialogue trees in that game is you don't get options, but rather you choose an expression to make with your face in response to what the NPCs have to say, which for me, that idea is insanely unique. And not only that, but there's a whole Buddhist aspect to this game that when you start to peel back the layers, there's a lot of Buddhist symbolism and a lot of artistic choices that I would say reflect how the creator sees the world. And it just so happens to kind of resonate with my views of reality and my views of life itself, which is why it's my favorite. I'm biased, but I've always searched for, I think, in games, that moment of being mind blown and really just being in awe of creative choices or different ideas that the game can introduce. And this game has a ton of those. It uses Twitter at some points. It uses Wikipedia at some points. It does a lot of things with your computer and outside of the game itself. And so yeah, I'm going to put it at number 1. Number 1 for 2023, it was Who's Lilla. That being said, I'm really excited to see what I end up playing in 2024. Give me like a top 5 of your favorite games in the comments below, or just some of your favorite games that you played in 2023. Maybe you can give me some recommendations of something I haven't played. That would be very exciting for me. I'm excited for 2024. Looks like it's going to be a really cool year for some games. So yeah, like, subscribe, smash comments, whatever the hell, YouTube shenanigans stuff. I'm going to bounce. So thank you for taking the time to watch this, and goodbye now.